Hi everyone, welcome to Difference Frames the World, a channel to find a real China. In today's China on the World video, we want to share China's perspectives on world affairs, based on Zhao Jian's remarks on June 25, 2021. We uploaded part 1 earlier today, and here is part 2. China Review News asked the spokesman a question regarding Canada. According to reports, 751 unmarked graves were discovered on the grounds of a former residential school for Indigenous children in Saskatchewan, Canada, on June 24. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called it a shameful reminder of the systemic racism, discrimination, and injustice that Indigenous peoples have faced and continue to face in this country. Does China have any comments? Zhao Jian answered, "We note reports on this, which came after a similar story on Indigenous children. With these discoveries, the dark chapter in Canada's history has been revealed more and more in front of the whole world." Calling it a crime against humanity, the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations chief said, "The only crime we ever committed as children were being born Indigenous." It is an indictment of the Canadian government's historical debt to the Indigenous people. It also reflects the Indigenous community's helplessness in front of their present bleak conditions. According to reports, over 150,000 Indigenous children in Canada were forced to leave their families to attend the so-called residential schools, where discipline was harsh and conditions were worse than other schools. The traces of Indigenous language and culture were strictly removed, and their daily curriculum was not about learning but heavy chores. The students were physically and sexually abused and malnourished. More than 4,000 eventually died at such schools. But these schools operated for over 100 years in Canada, a country that always boasts about its democracy and civilization. The Marival Indian Residential School, where the unmarked graves were found, wasn't closed until 1997. In 2015, after conducting 6 years of research, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada released an authoritative report, concluding that the residential schools set up and operated by the Canadian government amounted to the cultural genocide of Aboriginal people. Although the residential schools have been closed, the racial discrimination targeting Indigenous peoples in Canada has not stopped. According to statistics, the Indigenous people are 58% more likely to be targeted by criminal acts than non-Indigenous peoples. Indigenous women are 16 times more likely to be murdered or missing than Caucasian women. Between 1980 and 2015, several thousand Indigenous women were murdered or missing. The Canadian government had to admit that the painful and violent treatment suffered by Indigenous women constitutes genocide. In the face of these historical crimes, the Canadian government has been vowing to take steps to seek the truth, but no action has been taken. Regarding the remains of 215 children we mentioned earlier, we have seen the Canadian government trying to shift the blame to the Catholic Church. The remains were only discovered with ground-penetrating radar used in archaeology by people hired by a social organization. People had always suspected that there might be bodies buried on the grounds of the former residential school, but the Canadian government never took any action. With altogether 139 such schools for Indigenous children in Canada's vast territory, how many more crimes remain hidden underground? Nobody has the answer. Instead of going in circles with oral apologies and superficial justice, we hope the Canadian government will take more robust measures to find out the truth, ensure accountability and compensation, and adopt policies to protect the rights of Indigenous peoples earnestly. An AFP reporter raised a question to the spokesman. The U.S. has released a fact sheet and restricted imports of products they believe to be manufactured by forced labor in Xinjiang. What's the foreign ministry's response to this? Zhao Jian replied, "Yesterday, I already made clear our solemn position on the U.S. sanctions against Chinese companies based on lies and disinformation. The so-called fact sheet released by the U.S. side is nothing but a list of Xinjiang-related lies concocted by some people in the U.S. China is firmly opposed to and will never accept it. From cotton to PV, from agriculture to industry, the U.S. uses lies as a tool and resorts to its hegemony to suppress Xinjiang's industrial development by all means with human rights as a cover. It is detrimental to Xinjiang people's rights to subsistence and development and aim to create forced unemployment and forced poverty. With the issuance of withholding release order, the U.S. is equivalent to a bandit illegally seizing others' property. Facts have proved that the U.S. side does not care about facts and truth at all. It only wants to politicize regular economic and trade cooperation, intentionally interfere with the usual division of labor in the industrial chain and supply chain, wantonly suppress the development of Chinese companies and industries to contain China's growth. Neither does the U.S. side care about the people of Xinjiang, and their actual plot and sinister intention are to destabilize Xinjiang and hold back China's development. I wonder what gives the U.S. side the confidence and courage to release this so-called fact sheet. The statement on destabilizing and fomenting unrest in China by Lawrence Wilkerson, former Chief of Staff to former Secretary of State Colin Powell, is what we call a fact sheet of U.S. systematic implementation of the conspiracy to contain China through disrupting Xinjiang. The deaths of Native Americans in genocide and African Americans in the Tulsa Massacre, and the tens of thousands of African Americans who can't breathe like George Floyd and Asian Americans who suffer from anti-Asian hate, constitute another fact sheet of deep-seated racial discrimination that the U.S. should own up to. The U.S. should condemn and sanction the culprits behind these bloody human rights abuses and the reactionary forces in the U.S. They instigate extreme xenophobia such as discrimination against African Americans, anti-Asian hate, and Islamophobia. It should also condemn and sanction the hypocrites eager to lecture others on human rights condescendingly and use human rights as a big stick and apply a double standard. It is undeniable that people of all ethnic groups in Xinjiang live a peaceful and harmonious life, and China's human rights cause has enjoyed vigorous development. The U.S. side should respect the facts, stop maliciously spreading disinformation about China, and stop suppressing Chinese companies based on lies. China will take all necessary measures to safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese companies resolutely. A journalist from Shenzhen TV asked a question regarding China's white paper on the CPC practice in respecting and protecting human rights. China shares with the international community the CPC's historical experience in protecting and developing human rights. Could you elaborate on the significance of this white paper when there's severe prejudice and misunderstanding of China's human rights situation in some Western countries? Zhao Jian replied, on June 24, 2021, the State Council Information Office issued a white paper titled The Communist Party of China and Human Rights Protection, which gives a comprehensive and systematic introduction of the CPC's philosophy and practices in respecting and protecting human rights. Since the founding of the CPC, the history of the past century fully proves that without the CPC, the continuous progress of human rights cause in China would not have been possible. Over the past 100 years, the CPC has created a great miracle of respecting and protecting human rights, writing a new chapter in human rights. Over the past 100 years, the CPC has taken a people-centered approach and applied the principle of universality of human rights to China's national conditions. The CPC considers subsistence and development to be the primary rights, and believes that living a life of contentment is the ultimate human right. The CPC promotes the well-rounded development of the individual and strives to give every person a stronger sense of gain, happiness, and security. In this way, the CPC has found a path of developing human rights in a socialist country with Chinese characteristics. I want to stress that China's human rights cause is consistent with our national conditions, serves our people, and has achieved remarkable progress. It demonstrates that the path to the development of our human rights is viable and beneficial. China's human rights situation is at its historical best, a fact recognized by all people without bias. The CPC will continue to lead the Chinese people to follow the path of peaceful development and stay committed to promoting shared prosperity and safeguarding world peace. We will advance development through cooperation while promoting human rights through development, taking an active part in international human rights affairs. And we will also contribute Chinese wisdom and solutions to global human rights governance, furthering the world human rights cause, and working with the rest of the world to jointly build a community with a shared future for humanity. Thank you so much for your time on this video. If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and share them with people you know. We publish videos daily and post long videos on topics viewers are interested in once or twice a week. If you have anything you want to share with us, please leave your comments below.